Hello, how are you today? Grandma wants to read you a story from one of her old books about fairy tales. This one is called Rapunzel. Long, but I think it's a fun story. You might have seen the movie. Once upon a time, there was a man and his wife who long wished for a child, but the days passed and the months and years, and none was born to them. Now, at the back of the house was a little garden with rows of green cabbages and climbing beans on tall poles and more flowers than grew in the king's courtyard. But no one dared go near the garden, for it belonged to a powerful witch who cast spells so that all her neighbors were mortally afraid of her. One day, the wife was standing at her window, looking down at the garden. There she spied a bed in which grew the finest rampion she had ever seen. Do you know what rampion is? It's a vegetable that we don't seem to have around here. And you can eat the leaves in a salad. And it also has a root that you can eat, kind of like, I don't know, a carrot or a turnip or something. Anyway, she said to herself, what a salad it would make. It looked so fresh and cool, and she longed for it both day and night. Her good husband offered to get her a fine fat chicken to roast. Oh, what would a chicken or a goose be when it's only rampion that I pine, which means she longed for. Her husband brought her a pudding, bursting with raisins and rich with fruit, but she only wept and turned her head away. What is pudding to me, even if it were served on a golden plate, if I dream only of the rampion that grows in yonder garden? She is coveting her neighbor's rampion. And what are we told in the scriptures and the Ten Commandments? Thou shalt not covet. When her husband saw how pale she became and thin, and how she wept both day and night, he said to himself, rather than she should fall ill and perchance die, I will get her some rampion, come what may. When night came, he climbed the wall, and with the light of the moon for his lantern, he picked a bowl full of rampion. His wife was so pleased that at once she ceased to weep. But when the rampion was gone, she again began to droop and sigh. A second time, her husband went secretly into the garden and brought her a heap of the fresh, cool leaves. There she is, looking out her window, coveting and pining for the rampion. And there's her husband picking it in the garden. See, you can tell he's sneaking and trying to do it without getting caught because it's not his. The third time, having seen the witch and her cat go off at sunset, he did not wait till dark. But when twilight fell, he again climbed the wall and went into the garden. He had just cut the last stalk when he felt a sudden deadly cold, and turning, he saw the old witch looking at him, her eyes like two frozen ponds, and her voice like the sound of cracking icicles. She cried out, what are you doing in my garden, you who comes like a thief? Oh, said the poor man, show mercy on me. It is for my wife that I take your rampion. If it were not for this, she would die. The old witch leaned toward him. Take all the rampion you wish. In due time, a child will be born to your wife. It will go well with your child. But on her 12th birthday, she must be given to me. The poor man had no choice but to agree. He picked rampion every day. Do you think your parents would want to give you away when you were 12, on your 12th birthday? His wife grew rosy and happy, and when her child was born, never had anyone seen so beautiful a little girl. The witch came to the christening and named her Rapunzel, which is another name for rampion, like that grew in her garden. The witch was not a welcome guest, but all were so joyous because of the child that little thought was given to the old woman or the strange name she had given to the infant. As the years went by, Rapunzel grew hourly more lovely to look upon. Her eyes were bright, and her hair was the color of the harvest moon. When it was unbound, it fell behind her in a long, court train of gold. There, do you see her long hair getting brushed? It's long and beautiful and golden. All did indeed go well with the child, but on her 12th birthday, the witch took her and shut her alone in a high, high tower in the center of a deep forest where the underbrush grew so thickly and the briars were so sharp that even the bravest huntsman feared to go that way. Neither her father's threats nor her mother's pleadings could touch the witch's frozen heart. The days passed and the slow months and years, and Rapunzel was kept prisoner in the tower, which had neither door nor stairs and only one high window. She saw no one but the witch. To pass the long days, Rapunzel sang. Her songs were sweet, but sadder than tears. At night, when the old witch came home, she stood at the foot of the tower and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And after Rapunzel had done so, the witch, with her cat on her shoulder, caught hold of it and climbed to the very top. Now, one evening, a king's son who was hunting became separated from his companions. When he neared the tower, he listened to Rapunzel singing and saw her let down her hair as a ladder for the witch. When the next day he returned to his castle, he could hear nothing but Rapunzel's song, and he could see nothing but remember the golden gleam of her hair. At last, one day, he set out to the tower again to find it. And when he reached it, he called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." And Rapunzel, thinking the witch had come earlier than was her habit, undid her hair. It reached down the full height of the tower, a rippling golden waterfall. Up climbed the prince. Rapunzel drew back in terror, but so kind was the king's son that she soon came to look for him each morning and to long for him during the dark hours of the night. There is the prince. He set out again to find the castle, or actually the tower, not a castle, just a tower, where he remembered hearing Rapunzel sing and saw her long hair. So he's climbed the tower. And eventually, she took him for her husband. "But," said Rapunzel, "how can I ever climb down from my tower? Bring me, I pray you, a stout rope. Then I can reach the good soft earth, which my foot has not touched these many years." The prince rode away to do what she asked, for he could not wait another hour till they should be free and safely out of the woods. But it so happened that very day, the witch's cat grew hungry and mewed and clawed until the old woman had to return to the tower sooner than was her custom. She saw the prince climb down his golden way and mount his horse. Before he was out of sight, she reached Rapunzel. She beat her cruelly and cut off her golden locks, dressed her in coarse cloth, and by black magic sent her to a desert place where none could find her. Then she fastened Rapunzel's golden hair firmly to the window lock and waited. There's a picture of the prince with Rapunzel with her long golden hair. This is not the way you've seen the movie Tangled. See what happens in this story to Rapunzel. Soon, the prince was once more at the foot of the tower. He called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The old witch let Rapunzel's hair fall, but it was no longer warm and fragrant. It seemed cold, and the prince could hardly mount its icy strands. When he reached the top, the witch screamed at him, "The pretty singing bird has left her cage. You, robber, you shall not have her, nor shall you look upon her face again." With her long claw-like nails, she scratched the poor prince until he could no longer see. He stumbled into the forest, bruised and quite blind. Because of his sad state, he did not return to his father's court, but like a beggar, stick in hand, wandered through many lands searching for his lost bride. One day he heard a voice, clear and high, but sadder than a mourning dove's. He staggered toward the place from which it came. He was greeted by a glad cry and felt Rapunzel's tears of joy upon his cheeks. Their warmth brought back his sight. To him, she seemed more beautiful than ever, veiled again by her golden hair. She led him to a rude bed, and there, sleeping on it, as if in a royal cradle, were two twin children, a boy and a girl, who had been born to them while Rapunzel waited alone in the desert. Together, the prince and Rapunzel traveled to the prince's castle. His father, grown old, gave to his son both crown and scepter. The prince was now the king, and Rapunzel, queen, beside him. The two children grew rosy and strong. Their favorite great game was to hide beneath the cloak of their mother's silken locks. And soon, in high piping voices, they were able to sing, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. And there's the picture of Rapunzel with her two children playing in her hair. And that is how this story of Rapunzel goes. And I hope we learn that we shouldn't covet what's not ours, because that can lead to taking things and being a thief and stealing things. And it has bad consequences. Maybe not a witch sending you off to a desert place, but or stealing your child. But we should be happy with what we have and work for things that we want to and not try to steal them. Remember, Grandma loves you. I'll tell you another story again later.